Don't rush it.
Okay. Well, enjoy your chocolate.
Well, thank you. It's soon. I won't say when.
All right. Visitors this evening, Pam Shoemaker.
I was just wanting to know the status. Are we gonna have the military flag up for Memorial Day or not, or?
Yes, it will be. The new ones came in, they're up front. The guys
Okay.
plan to put them up.
Okay, I just was wondering, because if they're not, I would like to have mine, because I bought 4, you know, and if you're not gonna put them up, you know, I didn't know what you was gonna do with them.
No, the plan is to put up all of them.
Okay,
There was an additional stuff added to poles wise for the route, so we have more room to hang.
Oh, okay.
Put more up, okay.
Okay, that sounds good. And is the pool gonna be open this year?
Yes.
Yes.
June 2nd will be the first day.
Now, is it gonna be open all day, or is it gonna be just limited hours again, or
1 to 6.
1 to 6? Okay,
Okay?
sounds good.
And we hope that the splash pad, the gentleman, the inspector was out today and told them that they could go ahead and start filling.
Okay.
So, health inspector gave that blessing, the first blessing, and then he will come back after it's filled.
Okay, sounds good.
So,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. John Hart?
And I have more than 3 minutes. All right. First question would be, where are we at with the electric fund to allow for donations for the ball field lights?
I think any time that anybody wants to make that donation, they'll have to come in and see Melissa. She's set up a special fund line for that.
Perfect. Very good.
I do not know that they've had any late night
No.
games.
Okay. Awesome. Very good. Let's see real quick here. As far as, and we can maybe pause a little bit and then kind of move forward on a few things. I see with old business, there's a downtown revitalization committee. Will that be rediscussed?
Yes.
Tonight? Okay. So should that conversation be kept for then?
We'll add you in.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. Got that one.
I
And
know
then-
you were part of the group that went and met with Matt the other day with.
Correct.
Right, yes.
Yep. And then, last question then, for ordinance 202205 on April 25th, that was passed by emergency resolution, when will that be online and active?
We just put all of 20 and 21 on, so 22 will probably not be online until the end of the year, because I put them all on at once.
Okay. As of about 2 hours ago, it's still showing 2019.
And not 20?
No.
And 21? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. We've looked things up, so something's changed.
So let me,
Unless there was the footnote that said last passed and updated, if that was not removed, that might be the possibility, but that's still showing on the website currently.
Tim, Sharon signed you in. Okay, I will check with the gentleman tomorrow and see what's going on there.
Okay. And then with that, should we be discussing zoning and in coordination with revitalization committee, or should that be a separate discussion?
I know that there was some discussion with Matt. Why don't you share that right now, and then that'll give everybody a little bit of time to think about it before we get to that.
Okay. Nutshell, when we made the purchase, we were under the assumption, based on code at that point in time, that we were buying commercial C3 property. That is what's referenced in code, and it is currently zoned on the map as B2. So, different standards, looking to get some clarification.
And D2 is...
B2, I believe.
Oh, B, business
Yes.
2? And it's my understanding when you and Greg met with Matt,
Mhm.
he felt that the 3C would be more appropriate. Is that correct?
It's completely written for downtown. Kind of a case scenario, if that building burns down tomorrow, I literally have to have setbacks, I have to have a front yard. The property's half the value it is,
Okay.
so I'm concerned.
I think,
It's zoned B2 right now?
Yes.
And you said you were under the assumption it was what?
C3.
C3C.
What led you to that assumption, may I ask, just to become familiar with that?
The assumption that I was buying commercial
Yeah,
based on what was inside village code. It references downtown, specifies the building facade, everything. So
does the
just,
map show it as B2 though since 2019? at least?
yes, and previous.
Plus it has to do with apartments too above, right?
The apartments are kind of a moot point. I think that's, both are permissible. It's just more of the fact that if we want to do a restaurant, I'd actually have to apply for a variance under B2, where it's C3, it's encouraged. Ed's Flower Shop, there's a lot of really confusing things, and I'm just trying to get ironed out.
The zoning is very confusing, we agree.
Okay.
So, I think we.
Yeah, we can talk later, but if it's shown as B2 on the map, why did you think it was C3?
The village map references B2.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to go to village code website and anything that I search inside
There's
there,
no reference to B2?
there is no B2 in code.
That's, sorry, answer my question.
Okay.
So, we will have to have a zoning meeting, and I know Greg, you guys met for 3 hours, if
Yep.
my understanding.
2 hours at a time and then 3 hours up there.
You just need to look at each property and what its use is now, or your case,
Sure.
what you wanted.
Future use.
Yeah, and do it right.
I think so. I think we can resolve that.
Okay,
Anything else, Tony?
that's it.
Sharon and Tim?
I am the property owner of 151. Most everybody here knows me by now. I had a partner. Shane was my partner. Now it's Shane is the memorial part of it. I am wanting to know why burning, open burning, anybody can burn anything, any time of day in the center of the village, when there are so many reasons to not burn, yet it continues. The burning continues. It's going to affect you.
Mhm.
It's going to affect your renters. It's going to affect everybody. Joe's new renters that he's going to have on Main Street. Everybody can burn anything they want, anytime, anywhere in the business district. This is the way that it is now. I'm asking that it be stopped in the business district, not in people who are in backyards having their cookouts and their hot dogs. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for a burning ban in our business district. Right now, there is 5 burners, 1 person, an incinerator that can be burnt anytime because there's no one to say don't. Everyone is saying it's okay. It's not okay. Secondhand smoke is never okay. Ask the people who are fighting the forest fires in New Mexico. Embers and smoke carries for miles. Embers can carry 15 miles. Smoke, you can see it from space. I am asking that the burning in the center of the village, according to our own ordinances, be enforced. Tim?
You already have an ordinance. It's just nobody wants to enforce it. Or for some reason, it's all going back to the fire chief. He doesn't want it enforced. Now, it's
The
not,
police chief has
it's
the
not up,
ordinance.
it's not up to him to make a decision. He's not the judge or the prosecutor or the police officer or anything. When he gets a nuisance call, he should go and put the fire out and tell the guy not to light it. Like in Fostoria, they have theirs that was published in the newspaper, and there have been people that suffered the $500 fine because they didn't believe in it. And they have one as far as putting people in jail over there over this because they didn't pay their fine.
We already have in our ordinances, in our village ordinances. Tammy has a copy, Tim has a copy, anybody who wants to read it. Open burning is a nuisance. Anything that causes vapors, toxin, secondhand smoke is not allowed.
I think Melissa has placed one of those at everyone's spot tonight.
This is the open burning, and it has an effective date, and it's in the bottom. This is 2 years old. This is, almost 3 years old. This is the open burning ban. You can pass it on down here, let everybody look at it.
Looking at the nuisance one.
It is a nuisance. When someone's smoke wakes you up in the middle of the night, when someone's fire wakes you up in the middle, when someone has burnt a sofa that smells like pee. The whole downtown smelled like pee because the sofa was burnt. Wood that has been dragged in, EPA violations happen all the time.
And he conveniently waits until after 5 o'clock.
Or the
because he
weekend when
knows
she's gone.
They know there's nobody around here to stop him. And he does it all the time. He had an air hose on the fire the other day, blowing sparks up in the air.
Embers as high as the
Now, is he
incinerator.
deliberately trying to set the building on fire? It looks like it to me. Where's the fire chief at? He should be down there getting on him. But he won't say nothing.
Well,
He was gonna have me arrested.
And me.
We
And
are
her.
going to
The property
discuss
owner.
open burning here in just a little bit. We are working on something. I know it's not fast, but we have our solicitor who,
Madam Mayor, I have lost 2 trees. I grow apples, cherries, peaches, and pears in my backyard at 151 East Main Street at the Coach Shane Memorial to make the jam and sell the jam, to give $500 to a girl at the high school to buy her college wardrobe. Do I need to be burnt out by secondhand smoke? This is not fair. This is not right. None of us do this. There is one burner in the middle of the village, and it's next door to me. It's out my back bedroom window. I can't even open my bedroom window because my house smells like smoke. Nobody else in the business district burns. Joe doesn't burn. I'm sure that he doesn't want all of his new renters that he wants to make apartments for. He's not going to let them have 6 burners. Do you have renters with 6 burners?
No.
I have one right next door to me. There's an incinerator, there's 3 smokers, there's a burning barrel, and there's a tire rim.
we did discuss briefly when the downtown business people were here, and there were 4 of you who sat here at the meeting and said there really is no need to burn downtown.
There is no need to burn downtown.
We are going to work on that. Before I ask Mike if he has anything, I would like to read a letter that was sent to me in regards to this topic. I grew up in Macomb. I love Macomb. It will always be my hometown. And because of that, I am even more exasperated and confused as to why anyone would chance an original block of Macomb Main Street being burnt down. There are very obvious reasons to address and fix this situation. I don't believe a burning ban in any commercial downtown area should even need to be explained. It is literally in everyone's best interest, but here we are. First, the potential property damage to the downtown area would be costly, not just in economic terms, but also town history. That block of Macomb Street has been there well over 100 years. A fire catching in any of those buildings would most likely destroy the entire block. Beyond the money, that is a part of Macomb and you cannot get back. Second, please think about the fact that people live in this area, and a fire could result in not just property loss, but loss of life itself. I fail to understand how anyone can see that potential outcome and still fail to act. Third, can we all please acknowledge that burn bans in commercial downtown areas are commonplace. This is not some novel new ordinance being discussed. This is a long-established common village city ordinance. You can't burn downtown. It really is that simple. Last, and on a personal note, as a parent, I should never have to worry about my son's safety because he wants to visit his Grammy. He shouldn't have to ask his Grammy why the house smells like smoke. As a daughter, I should not have to worry about the
This came from
safety
Bunny.
of my 72-year-old mother in her own home. I shouldn't have to worry about an aggressive, spiteful renter burning down her home at 3 a.m. No fire should even be going at 3 a.m. I teach high school government. I have for 15 years. Every year I tell my students that local government is the level of government most responsive to the people. It is the level of government that will interact with the most and be influenced by the most. Yet this level of government is failing to address the potentially destructive and deadly issue of unnecessary, excessive open burning right in the middle of town. How does that make any sense? As a government teacher, taxpayer, and reasonable person, I am dumbfounded as to why this is even still an issue. As a mother and as a daughter, I am anxious, aggravated, and angry. This is a simple issue with a simple solution. Please let common sense and civic responsibility prevail and end the dangerous, unnecessarily nightly burning that is happening right in downtown Macomb. Sincerely, Katrina Bundy.
This is my daughter. She's a teacher, and I am going back to take care of my grandson, who is alone right now while there is a chain-smoking pyromaniac next door. Tim, are we ready to go? I hope that all of you consider open burning in the middle of the village a serious issue, because it is, and it's only going to get worse. Let's go take care of the kid. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sharon. Mike, did you have anything you wanted to add this evening?
No, ma'am.
On the PMP, it's brief, not much to report.
Mike Rice,
Oh.
sorry.
Calm down, Tiger. I don't.
I guess I should have said Mike Rice.
That's all right, he gets mixed up.
Okay. Now on to committee reports.
All right.
Mike Facey,
Okay.
PMP.
All right, so not much to report at this point in time. Last month, PMP had 24 runs, year-to-date of 97. Still working forward to creating a district with the Jackson Township in Whiteville. They were also reached out to getting everything ordered for getting the monitors ordered last week for the 2 new monitors for the truck. And then other than that, there's just some, they're looking at a 30% increase on insurance. Their policy is supposed to expire July 1st, and that's what they're seeing, a 30% increase coming on. So I'm sure that's going to be happening in many different places. So that's all I have to report this month.
Any questions for Mike Daisy? Okay, Joe, the fire?
Northwest Hancock Joint Fire District meeting was May 17th, 2022. So far, they have done 38 runs this year. There was somewhat of an update on the radios that there are being purchased or receiving. They're still having some issues with the batteries, or there's some snafu there, but it'll work out eventually, and you will receive those radios. The Ohio Fire Academy has contacted the chief, and they are looking into information and getting more information out to try to get more volunteer fire people. The main topic of conversation at the meeting that took place again, that has for the past year and a half, is the purchase and funding of the new fire truck. There's another increase in price at the end of this, I believe the 23rd, 24th of this month. The truck will now be costing $755,000.
What was the previous?
Previous was $35,000 less than that. That was,
Still sizable.
and the previous to that was about $35,000 less than that, and the previous to that was about $35,000 less than that. A lot of that has no bearing on, has bearing on what has happened as far as price increases. But,
Funding's why they haven't pulled the trigger on it in the past,
well,
right?
it's a funding issue.
Okay.
And it's still a funding issue. The latest that's being worked on or taking place is there is a grant loan process through Hancock Wood Electric that if the grant would be issued to Hancock Wood Electric, they would possibly issue us a 0% interest loan for up to 10 years.
$360,000.
I'm sorry?
For $360,000, correct?
Well, it's $300,000, and Hancock Wood Electric has to kick in 20%. So they kick in $60,000. But so there were some questions. It was contingent. The board voted contingent upon proper funding being issued that we would go ahead with the purchase of this truck after they had talked to the Hancock County and found out about whether this is the proper way to go about this and do this. So there are still some issues with whether, of course, with a grant, you're at the mercy of whether you don't know whether you're going to get that money. So, basically, the fire department right now they have basically $500,000 in their coffers. But obviously, you can't spend all your $500,000 on that truck. You have to have operating expenses. You have to have contingency plan. Many years ago, there was they started with a levy that was to pay for operating expenses and probably save enough money each year to begin to replace some of these aging vehicles that need to be replaced. So that's kind of where we stand. My personal opinion of it is that, and I tried to bring this up at the meeting, and I left the meeting before it was over last week, in somewhat of a personal disagreement with another board member. But I think that the board would be doing the village, Pleasant Township, and Portage Township a disservice in borrowing money to purchase a fire truck without it going to the people. In other words, if we need more money, then we need to add an addendum to a levy, or otherwise you're still paying for it per se. To me, again, if you don't have, if we don't get that grant, if the grant does not come through, that's probably going to be another 3 or 4 months before we find that out. And then at that point, if we don't get that grant money, then we will be looking for a loan at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% interest, whatever it is at that time. So, long story short, and not to take a whole lot more time, but that's kind of where we stand on it. I left the meeting before the end of the meeting. Maybe Mike or Beth could fill you in on something that took place after I left, but I don't know what was decided, or if anything was decided.
No, there wasn't anything decided.
It was tabled.
Yeah. So basically, what they're looking at was they have $500-some-thousand, so they appropriated $360,000 out of that fund, and looking at the other $360, that gave you your $720, right? So, but with that in mind, when they talked to, I can't remember the lady's name, but she put all the details down. where they couldn't go ahead and just place the order for the truck because they had to have all the monies appropriated first, right? They just can't order it. And even though the truck's gonna be 2 years out, they can't just place the order for it and have only partial payment to cover for the truck. They have to have the whole payment. So it got pushed back because of the fact is we're waiting for the approval for this grant. Then at that point in time, if that comes through, then everything's good and they can place the order truck and everything's appropriated. And then over the next 2 years, waiting for the truck to come, they're gonna acquire more income, you know, to be able to pay things back, right, and pay it down.
360 out of the 500 they have, and then 360 from Hancock Wood grant.
Yes, that brought you to 720, but again, then you turn around and you got another 5% increase coming here at the end of this month, which added another $35,000 on their cost. So it's kind of a snowballing thing going on. I mean, it's just, even if you would have voted on it like 6-9 months ago, I think the price was less, but we still didn't have all the money appropriated. You would at least known it then when it happened.
It boils down to, you're gonna be borrowing money to purchase a truck.
Oh, yeah.
You are going to be borrowing money to purchase a truck.
Yep.
At 0% interest, you're still gonna be borrowing money to purchase a truck.
Yep.
My personal opinion is that, again, that should be put on as a levy and let the people vote whether they wanna spend that money or not, and not just 7 or 8 or 9 people sitting around the table voting about it.
Is that a tanker or a full fire truck? Because I know they were talking tanker.
It is a pumper tanker.
Okay. And I'm assuming it was Cindy Land?
Yes.
As the prosecutor?
Lucinda, yeah.
Lucinda. Okay, any questions for Joe? Okay. Well, our first topic under old business is open burning.
I think the mayor sent out to you a letter I'd written to her with regulations, and I found that in Bowling Green, which has a lot of issues with the college kids burning and all that. They're pretty strict about it. My opinion is, well, I'd ask council to review that and digest it, but the idea is you need a definition of what a recreational fire is, so that's part of what was sent out to you. And then recreational fires then ought to have a set of regulations regulating them, which is what the one sheet is that talks about it has to be seasoned firewood and all this, excessive smoke for any reasons can still make the fire inappropriate and subject to being put out. And of course it has footage requirements. It has the different footage requirements for the units that you can buy at Home Depot and Lowe's, the chimeneas, the things with the tops on to prevent the sparks and all that. It has the size of a fire if you're building it on your own with rocks or brick and all that stuff, 3 feet, and then no taller than 2 feet should be the fire. All those things. And that, I think, would take, the village shouldn't be trying to put together something that solves one problem, but something that's just common sense if it is an issue throughout the village. And certainly, council, if they wanted to say in your own business district that there's no recreational fire, which is what I call it, or if you want to call it open burning, whatever, at all, unless there's some permit process, this, that, and the other, for whatever that reason may be, so be it. Unless it's on a grill, you know, a cooking type stove and that thing, which is going to be on for how long, but it's not a fire, it's to cook. You have all kinds of rain in which put that together based on what you've seen over the years and what the problems have been. But I think there ought to be something. And if you wanted to restrict the area and have 0 in the business district, then that would make sense as well. I don't know why you would need to burn there. And I don't understand the layout of this guy's property. I mean, I've seen pictures over the years, but apparently he has a backyard type property that's in this downtown. So it's just too bad for him if the village would pass something.
Well, and what you just received was a map that I had sent over to Rob after we were working on it at the same time. We crossed paths in emailing. And I looked at it as parcels versus what we know as actually businesses. So on the south side, Primrose, right there at Liberty Street, up to the fire station as it meets on High Street. And then on the north side, I put the parcel number for the bank up through the empty lot that is owned by Legacy next to Cyphers, and then there's an empty where people used to park along that, but it's truly owned by the elevator. If we truly wanted it to just encompass the downtown business district, that would be the exact area, but this has gone on since I started in 2018, and I know it was a problem before that. Why one person needs 5 burners in his backyard is beyond me. I know that I have received numerous voicemails. I think Tammy had 27 the other day in just, what, a couple days' time?
Just through the weekend.
Yeah.
And the fire department was actually called out. They were called out one day, and he had his pickup truck parked in his backyard. What he calls his backyard. It's a very small space. It's not technically a backyard. It's just a small space. But he had his pickup truck parked back there with the fire ring burning about 3 feet from the pickup truck. And he had like a billboard of some sort trying to block her view so she couldn't see down. Well, the fire department made him move that truck because it was an issue. And now there's a big sign back there that says mind your own effing business. So.
Well, the village council can't solve property disputes. They're the worst kind of things that can exist.
I totally agree with that.
So, you know,
I'm not saying
but
that.
burning downtown doesn't make any sense for anybody. So I would just think you're looking at the big picture. What do we need in place that's gonna last us 30 years? I think the regulations on recreational fires and maybe a flat out ordinance of where you can't burn at all unless there's some permit that's for whatever silly reason that our fire folks approve of or you approve of, so be it. But other than that, I still think you ought to have some for the whole of the municipality. You don't really have anything clear. This is a good old fashioned general nuisance ordinance that Finley uses more for guys that collect transmissions and lawnmowers on their property and tires full of water to attract mosquitoes and etc. That's kind of what this is geared at. This really isn't geared at a open burning recreational fire. It could be, because that's all you got, but so it's probably time to use this issue to address it as a whole, because these fire things I think are probably more popular now than they were 10 years ago. So you might as well have a rule that, you know, that regulates them like Bowling Green did, as the college kids gets out of hand, so they try to restrict that they're in these proper units, or that it's the proper size and it's a certain distance from the next structure, and it has to be attended, has to be firewood. If there's excessive smoke or other contaminants, that can shut it down, and then there's a penalty.
There were magazines, one of the calls, what magazines being thrown in.
So I didn't send you a penalty section, but a penalty section typically would be, it would either be you'd either call it a minor misdemeanor or an unclassified misdemeanor, and a first offense would be a fine of up to $150 plus court costs. Of course, it's going to get shut down when whatever authority determines it's a violation, but then a second offense ever, or a second offense within a period of time, could then become a misdemeanor 4th degree, and that's generally how you put teeth into something like that. So you can get a warning, put it out, get a warning, put it out, get actually cited, pay the fine, but then the next time it's going to get filed as a misdemeanor 4th degree, and you're getting pretty serious. Just somebody that got convicted of that's going to have to report it on a job application. It's going to come up. Yeah, it's just why go there? And that may solve even this problem. But the idea is there be some kind of proper ordinance in place for people who do want to burn. They can see it and know what they're going to need to do for their deck or their patio, whatever they're doing. So I would encourage you to take a look at that and write in the margins or tweak it or whatever you think the village needs based on your neighbors and where you live and whatnot.
Timmy, have we had any other calls since you've been on regarding burning?
I was just gonna ask that, we had trouble around town other than that.
Not that I
There's
know of at all.
There's no one, I mean, I'm not saying there hasn't been other people that don't have small little fires at night. Nobody.
I did report my neighbor, so I mean, that was.
I have a neighbor that burnt out back not long ago. I mean, I think it was a brush pile or something, but, you know, the smell came for a little bit and then it was gone, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm used to country burning
Right.
anyhow, so.
I think most people care about what their neighbors think, and where they feel like they can go over and say, hey, there's smoke's coming in my house. You know, I think that.
And I know you've knocked on it last year and you said the smoke inside just about.
Oh, in her house, yeah, it's bad, and again, I know we can't do something for one person, but it's coming down to, it's gonna be an issue when it comes to other people's safety also. I mean, it just is.
Well, and like I said a long time ago, I don't want us to look like Lipsick that lost part of theirs. Was it Dashler had a fire down there, theirs a couple years ago?
Or Baltimore, so.
North Baltimore, Napoleon. I mean,
Yeah.
they are tenderine.
It's across from it. It's
Can you
across.
burn in Finley's downtown, or is it not an issue? It's not set up.
I don't think there's a restricted area, but it
zoning
just
issue,
doesn't
that's-
seem to happen, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if it did, it probably doesn't notice or get called
Right.
about, right?
Not reported or.
I'm sure at one point in time.
What would you like to see as a property owner?
I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
I would say that, from a safety perspective, total burning ban makes total sense. With the understanding that we could expand the idea, and I'll let the cat out of the bag, so hush hush, it stays here. So we're doing barbecue theme, and we would have currently an indoor smoker that's gonna be, you know, food safety certified. We would also like to have an outdoor smoker as well, just firewood, and again, it would be, you know, regulated by Hancock County Health. It's not gonna be some hodgepodge little thing that's gonna go up in flames. At the same time, though, if it's going to prevent us from doing what we want to bring to downtown, I wouldn't be opposed if it's gonna be an absolute zero tolerance policy.
Let me add to that, and then again, that's exactly the council to consider. And it may even be in that regulation I gave you, but there can be exceptions for proper cooking devices, not makeshift craziness, but, you know, obviously, there's people that even use a Weber kettle grill, and instead of using charcoal, use chunks of hickory, or whatever it is they want to do, but they're using it to cook, and, you know, there's some common sense involved. It's not a 24-hour thing. You know, a restaurant, if you look at, you know, in Finley, Miller's Meats fires up his big cooker every day, and until it really gets going, you drive, I mean, I think it smells good, but every you drive by, the wood's still getting itself going for the day, and it is smoky, just like a fireplace might be, but then it eventually calms down. But he's cooking, okay, and he's paying taxes and doing his thing. So you can make exceptions for the cooking, but a general recreational fire, which has its own definition, could be what's banned in the business district, but permitted in your outlying residential areas and whatnot.
And it's from what I understood, you really don't want to make an ordinance based on one complaint. I get that. But I also know that that was part of the reason that the 2-hour parking ban was put on Main Street that, I don't know, 2 years ago, did we take that? I think it was about 2 years ago, and now we're getting phone calls again because there's the white pickup parked out front of her place.
And I've kind of tried to squash that too.
Okay.
And I explained to her, as long as he has a proper tag and that truck moves within so many days, there is nothing saying he can't park there. I mean, there just isn't. And I keep a log, so she can't say, well, it's been parked there for 2 weeks. Nope, it hasn't, because this is what I've been doing. And so I'm kind of squashing that. But I would call down there like at 2:30 in the afternoon for one of his fires. And I took down the sheet showing that he cannot burn until 6 o'clock because
It's a
through the
state
month of
thing,
May, it's a state
right.
thing.
But is that only through the end of May?
It is only through the end of May. And he got up in my face, and he had a couple of his buddies there, and I had to ask them to walk away, and I had to threaten him with going to jail for disorderly because he was completely out of control. And I just told him this is what you have to do. So I mean, he's trying to cross the lines.
I guess I would rather see us put something in place than to have a casualty in town. And I feel for this lady, her daughter, that ripped this. She has a young son, and he's staying there right now because he's out of school.
And so council knows, the ones that are newer on council, the council even has bent over backwards to try to help, is it Pepe? Pepe, to work with them. And I know that the fire district has, and I know that Ohio EPA has. I have a file on this. I have all these people's names that have worked with her. There are some other issues that I don't need to go into now that contribute to all of this. This is 2 property owners, not 1, raising issues and doing some things. But it raises the reason to start considering how to address a recreational fire in the village of Macomb. And it hadn't for years and years and years, and Van Buren it hasn't yet, but now it has here, so might as well consider a proper regulations for it for the good of the order and be done with it.
Have you looked at the story or not? I mean, they mentioned
The
Fostoria
BG's
tonight.
was the one that I just
I
thought
don't
covered
know.
it because they have that problem up there when the kids are burning stuff during the
Leftover
football games
furniture.
and everything, and so they enforce it, but don't want to restrict it for the good people to be able to enjoy a chimney or a proper fire. So, I would take a look at it, and I think it should be on the agenda next meeting.
It's gonna have to be pretty specific, or he's gonna be open for interpretation.
Well, these regulations are pretty basic. I mean, of course, if there's a complete ban in downtown, other than the proper devices for cooking, not him throwing a grate over it, I think they.
Could we set
define
something like that as of tonight? No, or does it need to be part of an ordinance?
I would highly suggest that it be an ordinance adopting whatever the regulations are gonna look like, attached as an exhibit A or whatever you wanna say. And I think it probably ought to go a full 3 readings. That's my opinion, but I can't, that's your guys'
What's
decision.
the rest of everyone's thoughts?
I think it would be good to ban recreational fires downtown.
Are you looking at these parcels that I listed, or do you think there should be?
This is for,
Okay, here.
it's accident waiting to happen.
Well, I mean, I did include the fire department, which if they ever did one of the old type of chicken grills or anything, all they gotta do is, hey, we're gonna do a big chicken grill where they used to flip those. I don't think anybody has a problem.
That's cooking though, that's not
Recreational,
Right.
or a proper device that's made for it.
Right,
A burn barrel firing all that would have to go away.
he's not cooking, and he's not attending it full-time.
Yeah, it's,
Because the one night, several of us walked down there after a meeting because we received calls during the meeting. And he was in the shed. He wasn't up there watching it.
I'm with John. I mean, it's just like,
Mhm.
yeah, but when you're cooking, you're doing it as your business.
Sure.
And you're being a taxpayer, I think it should be all
We
right.
hope to make you lots of money. That's
Right,
all.
right, yeah. But it's under control, you're
Sure.
right. yeah.
Not that this should make any difference, I mean, he's a renter, and others are business owners.
Right.
We'll be affordable.
And I think they should go with the business owners, this is what they want.
Well, I asked that night, John, you were here, and there were 4. Joe was here, John,
And
Ed was here?
Sharon.
Yep,
and-
Ed was on the other side of the table.
And Ed Allen.
Yep.
There were 4 that were here, and all said, oh, yeah.
yeah, they wanted the van.
I just,
I think it makes sense.
So just move forward with that. ordinance next meeting, is that?
If you can kind of draft that up
Start
and
putting
see where
something
you're.
together, yeah.
Okay. And if you send it out, and we'll send it on, and everybody look at it and see what your thoughts, but I just want to go on record that I don't want to have that fire downtown because we did nothing. Not that there couldn't be, but we do know last year the state fire marshal was involved in that where it did catch on fire, but it was put out.
It sounds like it's starting to escalate,
Yeah.
so, I mean, like you said, this is the first I ever heard of it, but from what I'm
Wait.
gathering, it's starting to kind of.
The night we had PMP and fire, he was down there doing it again.
Yeah.
Greg went down there to look at it.
We're getting a lot of calls.
Oh, I can play, they're all saved. You've had saved all yours. The one was 12:50 at night. Sometimes it's in the morning and it's still smoking. He goes to bed or goes inside and leaves them burning. It's not being put out. So, okay. The next one, police body and dash cams. Do you want to talk about that, Tammy? Where we're at on that with Lizzie?
So, the body cameras and the dash cameras, the quote we have is almost done. And of course, with that, like everything else, it's gonna go up. We do have, Lizzie has, is working on a grant. I don't know the time frame of that grant, to, how soon we're gonna know anything. I don't know, can you add to that, sir? Do you know how?
I don't have exact dates. I wanted to say it just came out for.
Yeah, so it's gonna be.
Came
a
out May
little while, I
2nd.
think.
Yeah, so I don't have any information
Yeah,
as
so,
far as that.
just so everybody knows, that price could go up, whether we get the grant or not, so.
You also included in that the Tyler, correct?
The Tyler, yes.
The Tyler program.
Yep.
Do you want to explain what that?
The Tyler program is through, the sheriff's office runs off of Tyler. So Tyler is a police report writing program that they use specifically, and it's hooked into our computers. And when the sheriff's office first adopted Tyler, all the surrounding Hancock County agencies were asked to come on board. Macomb, they refused to. So I now have to pay for Tyler to get involved because that was a one-shot deal. So we're trying to incorporate the Tyler program in with the grant also. So that way I can be on the same program as them. If I have a computer in the car, say I'm going to a domestic and dispatch is on a call and they're saying there's weapons in the house. They're typing in that computer, hey, there's weapons in the house. They're letting me know without saying it over the radio because we have scanner land now and everybody hears it anyways. And I can bring up the map. I can see where my closest unit, how far out they are. So if I should hold off, if I'm going to be on my own, whatever have you. And then all my reports, they start my reports, I finish my reports, and it's done.
I think Allen County is using Tyler, and then Finley City as well.
Yes, Finley City
So
is for
it's-
sure, I'm not sure. I know Allen County, I know all the different agencies, like I had a program over in Putnam. There wasn't Tyler, but it was pretty much similar, it just wasn't called Tyler, so.
I think.
It was pretty great.
I remember, because we talked about this, and I looked at it and spoke with the gentleman that had written the program. Any previous documentation will automatically come up on that too, so you have an idea of what you might be walking into.
Yeah, if I'm out with a vehicle,
Mhm.
it can, it'll let me know if they have a concealed and carry permit. It'll let me know if they have, a warrant for their arrest, something like that, if I put the information in first.
So hopefully that one will be funded. It was through the name of an officer through the JAG program.
It also goes as far as having like fire hydrant location and different things like
Yeah,
that.
there's
All the
a lot.
GIS system that can go with it, so it was so helpful with the, that's not having the water flood, other things like that.
There's a lot of.
Any other
Questions?
questions about that grant? Okay. The Community Foundation, the $30,000, that is a special one-time. We talked about possibility of doing something with the school or at the school. I reached out to Sean Wolf and asked about when their Meet the Team's going to be. And August 18th is too late, but if we did something like the first week in August, maybe could do it at the school and have it in the cafeteria, so it could be air conditioned. I thought I would write the grant, if this is what you guys think, we'd just do it very simple, ice cream and cake, and then just have a little bit of a program about the history of Macomb, and then let them do their athletic thing, introduce everybody. The school is really the hub of the community, and at least you know you would have people there. And you talk about wanting your youth to hear a little bit about the history. So is that kind of what you want me to write it for? I'm not going to let Sean know for sure to put out that we're going to celebrate until it gets closer to that time. That way, if we wouldn't get the grant, then here's the memo. Happy 175th, Macomb.
What day did you say that?
Well, we haven't settled on a date,
Okay.
but it has to be about the first week. And I don't care if it's a weeknight, if it's whenever they normally would have it, but it had not been set yet. So Sean's willing to work with us if we want to go that route.
With the focus of the grant being on neighborhoods, beautification, and engagement strategies, is there a way to incorporate the 175th anniversary of Macomb?
Well, that would be kind of the birthday party down there.
Well,
And
but
then we
but
would
again,
have
though, I guess, I'm
Deb.
not trying to cut you off, but it would be, instead of having it in an air-conditioned place, like, actually do a walkthrough of what's currently here, what's coming.
I don't know if the kids would want to come, but, I mean, we could always do that and then meet down there.
Would it, and again, I'm just asking out loud, is it focused on kids? Is that what the lens you're looking through?
Not necessarily. I was looking at it as a nice place to hold it.
No, I completely
And
agreed with you.
you have the kids, I mean, we could do it at the park, but the seating, I mean, at least you have, if they do it in the cafeteria or do it out on the football field, you have seating and don't have to worry about people standing and.
I was gonna say, Meet the Team, that used to be with the Cookie Festival, but
Mhm.
that's went away.
Right.
Are you gonna have something big with the 175th?
We've been discussing, but we haven't come up with anything real big.
Is it just gonna be a one-day thing, or is it you're gonna do a whole weekend?
Oh, no, we're not doing the whole weekend.
We're having the.
Why?
the-
I mean, if it's 175 years, hey, I'm sure.
We can't get people to do anything for the cookies.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That's the sad thing about this community. You cannot get people to work. And I'm thinking maybe 175 years, maybe you can get the community, more involved. But that's how it used to be, was Meet the Team night, was one specific night of the 3-day, thing. But, I don't know.
When they moved it.
I mean, it's sad.
Yeah, I totally
It is,
agree.
it's sad.
I will set something up then with Sean, and I'll put that grant together. I did look about urns. I actually took a picture of some that were out at Lowe's, of the cement ones that are very similar to the ones that Ed said that are deteriorating. So I might throw that on there. If we don't get all of it, maybe we'll get some of it.
Could I ask one more question?
Sure,
Not-
John.
Not trying to steer the ship, but
No.
just asking out loud. If a lot of other communities, their baseline for jumping off was kind of a find out who we are and kind of either regain or reimagine their perspective identity. And I'm not saying that Kim is going to have preference over, you know, if she says, okay, it's a re-envisioning of Macomb for their next how many ever 100 years, over kind of a meet the team and kid focused, but it would be an opportunity to kind of put together, and you could probably qualify, quite frankly, for larger dollar figures if you were to put together a study on how to reinvigorate a community and take a look at maybe some of the values that have already been discussed with Heart and Soul, a few other spearheaded projects, and actually put those into play instead of doing, or maybe in conjunction with some of the displays downtown for the sports. You could also have forward projecting ideas on what could come, what could be. Toledo's been phenomenal at this. They will actually put pictures in their windows of what they want the building to look like and what kind of businesses they want to attract. And within 6 to 8 months, people catch the vision and they come there. It might be something that would be a good thought process. You've only got till June 3rd. I'm not trying to put it all on your plate, but
those are all good ideas.
It's
I
an idea.
had a lady call in one day and talked about the city of Asheville, how they brought all of the artists in who
Sure.
worked in all those buildings, and just, you know, the dividers, hang them up, and, which, it's a neat town, but I don't know if they're there yet. So,
we'll get there.
I hope so.
We'll get
I
there.
hope so. Okay, so that was the community foundation. Downtown revitalization. Well, we had 4 grants turned in. 2 of them had a true estimate with them. One was $75,000, the other one was $45,000. One of them said, depending on what the focus of it could be, between $68,000 and $131,000. And the 4th one had a list of items with an unknown budget. They were due at the end of the day on Wednesday. I was out of town, came back Thursday night. Friday I emailed Lauren up in Cleveland and Paulette, and I still haven't heard anything back yet from her as to, okay, what is for sure our next step. Obviously the rubric, we're going to have to evaluate them. But I was pleased that we had 4 applicants. So
This needs submitted by what date?
I think it's June 30th, to be truthful.